How's it going, everybody? This is the Board Certified Gaming Podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about what else? Video games. And if you didn't guess that from the title, it says gaming in there, so we can't really spell that out any better for you. You just have to catch up. This is about video games. All right, now we're all caught up. I'm Andy, and I'm flying solo today. Amar's busy, and speaking of flying, I just flew in from Arizona after a Labor Day weekend trip, and boy, are my arms tired. But I'm just a little embarrassed because I did not get that joke until I was an adult. Just a little sad, I know. Kids can figure that out, I'm pretty sure. Some small birds can figure that out, but, middle school Andy did not figure that out, and somehow adult Andy did. I don't know. That's me, I guess. So, today we are going to talk about old games brought into the new age, mainly remasters and ports, because we can't have enough nostalgia in our lives. It's never enough. We need more. Always, just give it to me. Just remake my entire childhood. That would be fantastic. Just give me the opportunity to do that. But first, something you guys can do is leave feedback on what we're doing here for the podcast. You can leave a review, a rating. You can subscribe, follow, leave comments, all that other stuff, just to let us know how we're doing and if you guys are liking what we're doing, if you're vibing with it, how you're feeling. We appreciate any kind of feedback you guys can give because we're going to think we're the hottest shit otherwise, which, let's be honest, we kind of are. So, who are we kidding? But make sure to leave comments, like the videos if you like them, follow the podcasts. They're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. 3 different avenues for you guys to enjoy this content. I'm going to tell you it's the same content on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so I'm just throwing that out there. Don't expect anything different. It's the podcast. But on YouTube, there's all kinds of content we have, including the podcasts. We have Let's Play videos, we have reviews, first impressions videos, top 10 lists, all kinds of other stuff. So go check that out. We also have a Twitter and an Instagram account where we post everything that's happening. We tweet fun stuff. We have a bunch of pictures that goes on the Instagram. So you can see our ugly faces, mostly mine. Amar looks pretty good. So there's that. Finally, we have a Twitch channel where we stream video games and play live. So when it's not a recording, it's live. We have the technology to do that, and you guys can come say hi to us. We'll say hi back. That's how it works. We play video games and say hi to people and talk to them who are in the chat. Come stop by and talk to us. We don't bite. Only the bedroom, Unless you want to be bit. I can bite. I don't know. People are into that. But today we're going to talk about remasters and ports because I'm an old man of 25 and my childhood was peak video game years, and there's just so much stuff that came out back in the day that I want to play today, but I don't want to have to hook up my Nintendo 64 to my HD TV because then it's just going to look like crap, which, it still probably plays pretty well. It's just, my eyes are getting bad as an old man. So for those of you who don't know, a remaster and a port are 2 of the same things, but a little bit different. So a remaster is when they take an old game and then remake it into either the same game or a newish kind of game. So they change some things fundamentally, like either the graphics, they enhance it and make it in an engine that's built for today's consoles so it doesn't look like it was made in the year 1998. Or they change up some story. Or in some cases, most popularly the Resident Evil 2 remake, they remake the game entirely from like a whole viewpoint graphic standpoint. They just change the whole thing, make it look completely different than what you played back in the day, even though it still has the same kind of structure. So that's a remaster. And a port is just taking a copy of the game as it looked, as it played back then, and putting it to new consoles, just the way it is. Maybe they change up some little things like the accessibility or the way the controller works, because some controllers are built differently from console to console. So they just basically here, that's what the game was. Now you can play it on this new generation of consoles. So most remasters are ports. So it's like a square rectangle thing. If you get what that is, then thank you. You went to geometry class. All squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. I know. It sounds really stupid that I'm going into shapes right now, but rectangles are two equal pairs of sides, but a square is all four equal sides. Rectangles don't have four equal sides, but squares do have two pairs of equal sides. If that made sense to you, thank you. If not, I'm sorry. Just skip ahead. So remasters are ports of the game. They take the game and make it for new consoles, but they change it and make it better, look prettier, play maybe a little smoother than it was back in the day, where ports are just like, here's the game, but it'll not look shitty on your HDTV. So, I mean, those exist, which did not exist. Remasters and ports didn't exist for a long time, and we were okay with it. Like, creativity was everywhere. So new games were coming out, new consoles were coming out, and new games for it. We're like, hey, we got this brand new IP that we're coming out with, and we are super happy because it's nothing anybody's ever seen before. You know, with more years that go by, the less original ideas come out, and it's a lot of sequels. It's a lot of, okay, but it's this franchise, but a different, style of game. Like, we're just going to make an RTS out of the first-person shooter that you've been playing for years. I'm looking at you, Halo Wars. But creativity is it gets a little stale sometimes. It gets a little hard, which, I mean, believe me, trying to think of something creative on the scale of a video game idea and like making it actually a good one that might succeed, I can't even imagine how to do that. And the fact that people have these good ideas is awesome, but it's a lot of the same kind of stuff, just like with a different little dress on. It's like, it's a first-person shooter in the middle of a war, and there's like 8 games like that. No, I'm sorry, never mind. It's a game about zombies. Oh, never mind. There's like 12 games like that. Okay, well, you're in medieval times, but you have magic, and there are dragons. Oh, well, shit. Okay, well, how about a game about cricket? Do you guys want to play that? No? Okay, well, here is an old game that we made how many years ago that you can play again and relive all the great moments you had when you were 12 and learning what your body does. That's weird. But that's the point, is that creativity is tough sometimes, and you need a softball. You need a layup that's like, hey, if we just do this, everyone's going to love it. It's going to make us a good amount of money just because people want it, and nostalgia is crazy. So remasters are basically nostalgia factories because everybody had great memories, hopefully. I mean, usually they don't remaster bad games. That's kind of stupid if they do. If they remastered a game nobody played, I don't know what they're expecting there. But usually it's with, hey, this thing was really popular and people really liked it, so we're bringing it back. People want that because the nostalgia it's comfort. It represents you going back to a time where you maybe had less responsibilities. Life wasn't so tough. You were growing up as a kid and figuring out video games, or you fell in love with this game and it turns out it's really outdated because it's for a system that isn't even supported anymore or doesn't exist anymore. Like old Sega games, that's really tough to find a Sega console that works well, plays decently, and looks great on a TV. So all these games have to come out that it's like, hey, they're coming out with Aladdin and Lion King for, I think, Sega. They're bringing them back just because it's like, man, people loved those games as a kid. Disney's still huge. People will buy this just because they fell in love at an earlier age when this game was at its peak. You know, these were great games back in the day, and then they're bringing them back, and hopefully they can, you know, muster up some money, muster up some feelings in you that it's like, hey, you're welcome for bringing you back a piece of your childhood. And I appreciate that. I appreciate remasters and ports just because I actually don't appreciate it because it, you know, ruins my backlog and gives me another game that I've played 30 times that now I can get a chance to play it 31 times. Looking at you, Skyrim. But it, you know, I do honestly appreciate it. It sucks because it adds another game to my library, but it's great because it adds another game to my library. You know, it's another game I can play that I know I'm going to enjoy because I played it already. You know, I've beat it. I've maxed it out 100%, got all the trophies and achievements, did all the alternate endings and stuff, and I get to do it all over again for the first time for the 100th time. Like it's that feeling that gets you so much dopamine in your head that you're like, man, I am 13 years old again, don't have a girlfriend, don't have a job, don't have any kind of college on the radar. I'm just coming home, playing video games with my friends, and exploring these worlds that these very nice studios have created for us and only for us. Like it's just a weird feeling that no other kind of game can give you. Like I've been playing World of Warcraft Classic recently, and that's the big one that came out. And droves of people have been excited about it and are playing it consistently just because it's a game that that millions of people fell in love with. And being from 2004, you know, 15 years ago, there are people who have kids and lives and have spent the last 15 years still playing World of Warcraft and have been yearning for what that feeling was like back in the day of them playing. And they just get that now. And we're like suckers for this stuff. Like it's amazing how much comfort and nostalgia you can get from these games and how basically easy it is to create those feelings again. Like I've been playing Mass Effect, the trilogy again, and I'm like, man, I played these games like 6-7 years ago, and I play them every like 2 years ago, and I still get the same kind of feelings that, man, this is a fantastic trilogy of games, and I can't wait to have the months go by so I can play it again. Like I am all for creativity and new ideas. I actually need to play some of the new games out there, and I've been dogging it a little bit just because I have my old classics that I enjoy that I can play on my new consoles. And I just love video games so much that I want the new and the old to coexist and for me to have zero responsibilities, zero jobs so I can enjoy them all. That would be great if I can just spend the rest of my life completing my backlog, playing whatever I want, and all the games of my childhood just come back. And here you go, Andy, we did this just for you. That would be great. So they're fantastic, but they do have some downsides, and you know they're not bulletproof. You know, they're not just easy cash cows that are just like, hey, put this game out, we're gonna make millions of dollars, and that'll afford the next game. Some studios do that, and some get away with it just because they had such great games back in the day and they're kind of in a dry spell. So they're like, here, put out something that we succeeded back in the day. People will eat it up. They're going to pay millions of dollars. We're going to get that and then finance the next game, which, you know, we're playing with house money at that point. We can try something new and see if that becomes the next, you know, big game. The downsides are that it does perpetuate the cycle. So it's like now, once somebody does a remaster of a game, then everybody else wants to do it because it's like, well, you remastered that game. We have a game that's similar to that. And if people are eating it up, here's what we're going to do. We're going to just remaster it too. And then everybody's going to fall in love with it. And then we're going to have that couple $1 million from that. So which we can spend wherever we want to. And it's become a trend. It's become its own genre. You can have an entire library of just remastered games from back in the day and not have played any of the ones from, 20, 10, 15 years ago. And there are tons of them. So you could just sit and play those and not even have any idea what it was like to play those back in the day, the downside is that everyone starts to do this and then it becomes like just basically remaking a movie. There are so many horror movies that get remade and they just make the same movie just like 8 years later. And it's like, I didn't want to see the next, the same movie, just like a little bit different. And then in 5 years, you're just going to give me the same movie, a little bit different. The one like that, Grand Theft Auto 5. I bought Grand Theft Auto 5 for the Xbox 360. And I was like, great, this is awesome. Grand Theft Auto 5, played the hell out of it. And then like a few years later, it's like, well, here you go. Grand Theft Auto 5 on PS4. Nothing was changed. It's just you can play it on a PS4 now. It's like, well, if you're going to make a game that's been out for a while, but you just made it on a new system, don't charge me $60 for it. Like Skyrim was $60, $60 on every single console it came out with. And then it's like, well, now it's on Switch. Here's another $60. Please. Like it does get annoying. It gets annoying to the point where I don't need this game 17 different times. Work on the next one or work on something else because it's especially if it came out on PS4 and then they're going to make it on PS5. It's like, I can just make it backwards compatible. I still have the disc. Like if nobody keeps discs anymore, that's why it's, a thing because they're like, well, we have this game. It's digital. You lost your disc from 5 years ago. Well, here you go. You don't have to go looking at a under $10 bin at GameStop. You can, or go on eBay. You can just get this game digital remastered just for you. Like it is great because these things happen, and they make money for the studios that do give them opportunities to finance other games. But it is like catering to the lowest common denominator when it's saying, hey, we know you're going to pay for this, so we're going to make it and we're going to charge full price because we know people are going to buy it because the nostalgia sells. So it is kind of shallow and low just because they know it's basically like a money-making move, like it's a cash grab. But, I mean, there are positives, meaning they're games I actually want to play. If they were remastering everything, like if everything was just ported or remastered, like they just redid everything, then no studio has that many employees to make an entire remaster and then make this giant new game. Some do, but most don't have the resources to take a huge game, remaster it, redo it completely, or reboot it or something like that, and then also make a brand new IP that's huge, like that's gigantic and takes a lot of man hours. You just can't. So it's either you make a new game or you release an old game. That's just how it works. The bigger studios maybe can get away with it, but some have to prioritize. They're like, man, if our new game tanks, we're screwed, but we can go with a safe move and just remaster something that we made back in the day that people loved, and hopefully we can get some money. But it's kind of a double-edged sword because, yeah, I wanted to play that game, but I also wanted to play the new stuff that you're coming out with because I have trusted in you as a studio and a developer and a publisher that you have promised me new stuff because I've played all your old games. I trust you. I believe in you and want to see what you come up with. If all I see is that you're coming out with the stuff you've already come out with, then that tells me you're out of ideas. That tells me you can't think of anything new or you don't think it's going to succeed. So you're not even trying. You're just coming out with something that you've already thought of, which please do it. I'm not telling them not to do it. A remaster every once in a while is cool. Make it like an obscure game that nobody's played. And here's the part where Amar would say, make it Jet Set Radio. Jet Set Radio Future, I think, is his favorite one. He's got a tattoo of it. Make it the games we want that are obscure. Don't just, okay, this game came out 3 years ago. It was huge. We're just making it on the new system now. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I love Bethesda, but I wouldn't be surprised if they put Skyrim on the next generation of consoles, even though the next Elder Scrolls game should be coming out for them in like a year or two. Like, I would not be surprised if they're like, hey, you want to play Skyrim again for like the 9th time? Here you go. Because it's a cash grab. At its heart, it is a cash grab, but there are some that are making it just because people want it. My example of that is Castle Crashers. So Behemoth made Castle Crashers in 2015, and it was only on Xbox 360. And then they're like, well, okay, we're going to have a remastered on Xbox One. And then we're going to slowly put it to other systems as well. And they're just like, because Castle Crashers wasn't the most successful game in the world. It's not the biggest game in the world. It's a very fun game. I recommend you check it out. It's coming out on Switch, PS4, everything, in the next few days or something like that. It will be on all systems. But they realized that there are so many people who didn't get a chance to play it because they don't have an Xbox. And they didn't get a chance to play it back when it came out, and they didn't get a chance to play the remastered version. Like, for me, I was a PS4 owner, a sole PS4 owner for the longest time. And I'm like, I didn't get to play Castle Crashers again once I lost my Xbox 360. I couldn't play it because it's a digital game only. And, I really missed that game. And then they're like, hey, we know that our fans want this game. We're doing it for everybody, so everybody gets a chance to play it no matter what system you're on. That is the best situation you can have, where they just want everybody to play it. They're like, hey, we knew you guys were wanting this. We gave it to you because now everyone can experience the same kind of things that everybody who played it in Xbox 360 back in 2015 had. And that's the best. When it's just the same game like 2 years later, before it's like even like really been declared like finished, like they're not updating it with DLC or having a bunch of patches or something. Like if it's a year and a half later, here's a remaster. It's like, come on, dude. Like, especially that time when the Xbox One was coming out, all these games were like, yeah, they just came out for the Xbox 360, but we made an Xbox One copy. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm not just going to rebuy this game I bought a year ago or like even 6 months ago just because I got a new system now. That's why I wish all systems were backwards compatible. Switch, that's going to be tough because there's only one. You can't play Wii games on a Switch or GameCube games on a Switch, but you can emulate them or make them, digital ports on the Switch. I would love that. I want to play Luigi's Mansion 1 again on the Switch. I want to play all my GameCube games on the Switch. That would be great. But, just cater to the people. Don't just use it as a cheap cash grab, because we're going to see through that right away. We're going to say, okay, really? You're remastering that? Like, the example I have is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. I wanted the game just because that came out on Xbox 360, and I, haven't had a chance to play that in a while. And I heard they were going to release a remastered copy, and I was like, great. But the thing they did is you only got to play that game if you bought Infinite Warfare. So you had to buy it, and it was extra. You had to buy the Infinite Warfare with the Deluxe Edition with Call of Duty 4 Remastered in order to play it. And I'm like, well, no one's going to buy Infinite Warfare by itself because it looked like crap. And I was one of those. I was like, no, I'm not playing this stupid space Call of Duty. I don't care. So I was like, but I have to buy it because I wanted Modern Warfare Remastered. So they knew that all the suckers for the nostalgia and the people that played that game and meant like nuts back in the day were going to buy this because they're like, well, we can count this as a Infinite Warfare number. That'll boost our numbers if we say, well, you can only buy Infinite Warfare to get Call of Duty 4 Remastered, Modern Warfare Remastered. And I'm like, that's kind of a cheap move. Like, yeah, it worked, but that doesn't mean you should have done it. And then eventually they released it by itself because they realized that people were actually unhappy with Infinite Warfare. So they were just returning it and saying, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to buy it then. Like, release it by itself. And they finally did. And they're like, here you go. Here's Modern Warfare Remastered, but it's only digital. So you got to, do that. And finally they realized that people wanted that game and not Infinite Warfare, but they used our love of nostalgia and our comfort factors and the dopamine factors that associated with the comfort and the nostalgia to sell their own game. And I'm like, yeah, it's smart, like requiring us to do that, but it's also a dick move. So I didn't really appreciate it. And all in all, I think remasters are a great thing, but don't overdo it because then we're going to see right through it and realize that you're out of ideas. If you're remastering a game that nobody asked for or that just came out or that, clearly is just to make you some money so you can afford the next one. Like, I love BioWare games, but Mass Effect Andromeda did not do that well. So if they remaster the trilogy and then come out with it, like, to finance the next Mass Effect, like, it's kind of like your last move tanked, so you're going with something that's a little bit safer. So for fantasy players, if daily fantasy players, if you or anybody of you guys out there, if you want somebody that's safe, or the safe play, or you want the upside play, upside plays are new games, safe plays are remasters and ports. It's just easy money that you don't have to work very hard. You sometimes have to work hard for, but you don't. It's not a lot of creativity that goes into it because all the creativity's already been done. Like, the most creativity goes into how do we make this for new consoles? How do we make this improve? How do we make it better for this next console? But still sticking to what we had already made. Or ports, you just, hey, how do we put this on the new console so it doesn't look like crap? So that's the safe play. The upside is, this has upside. This might be the next Fortnite. It might be the next Apex Legends. It might be the next World of Warcraft. But we need to, try it. We either need to try and fail or try and succeed. Don't just go for the low-hanging fruit. So what the future holds for remasters and ports, I'm very interested in, because we are going to have another console generation. We are going to have the PS5 and the Xbox 2, Xbox One, 2, I don't know, Xbox something, Xbox box, I don't know. The new Xbox. We're going to have a next console generation, which means all of the games that aren't backwards compatible, that you don't have the discs for, they are going to get to determine who wants remasters and who gets ports and who has backwards compatibility, meaning the new games that we get for the new consoles are going to be built for them. And we hopefully will get remasters that we enjoy, that are maybe obscure or new, that it's like, hey, we are bringing Jet Set Radio Future to the Xbox 17 because we can. We have, technology has updated enough that we can do that, especially with this console that can handle it and graphically enhance this game. That would be great. If you're just like, well, here's Skyrim again, here's Grand Theft Auto 5 again, here's all this other stuff. I'm like, why are you wasting my time? Like, build something new. And then if you're just going to make a remaster for PS5 or Xbox 3, Xbox One, just use that money and time to make a new game for the console so it can look pretty and entertain people and make it a new franchise or a new source of revenue for you. Don't just, well, here's a safe play just to start out. We're going to see right through that, and then you're going to be behind everybody. It should be a race to be the next big franchise on PS5 or the new Xbox. That should be the goal. That's why we're probably not going to see many new titles or many new anything until those things come out, because it's like, why waste all of your energy building a game for PS4 when that's going to be obsolete in like a year or two after the PS5 comes out? Why bother? So it's interesting to see what we're going to come out with and how successful it is. I'm going to look at the World of Warcraft Classic numbers because I want to see how its numbers in terms of people playing it, how many people are sticking with it, how many people go back to the new World of Warcraft, the modern World of Warcraft, how this game was huge, still is, and then brought in so many more people who maybe had a falling out or, saw it and were like, man, I played it back in the day, I'm going to go back and play it. Or, all the people that play the new one that wanted to try what it was originally like. I'm interested to see what the numbers look like and how many people stick with it, because then that'll be telling. How many people really, like, nostalgia and the comfort can only last so long. It can only go so far. So how much do these people really want this? And then do they realize, man, this game was from a long time ago, and it kind of shows, because we have made so many more graphic, technological, audio, gameplay improvements in the last how many years of this game, and it turns out that was a much more fulfilling experience than the one I got back in the day when I didn't know any better. I didn't know what was going to come in the future. I didn't know what this game was capable of or what the studio was capable of. That that's the thing, is that these remasters show you what the games were like back in the day and how they would have been made now. Like if they had the same kind of improvements they could have made back then, so it's either going to be a great game or it realizes, yeah, this game is still kind of limited based on how the game was back in the day. It's the same kind of experience, but if it just looks prettier, then the nostalgia kind of wears off after a while. That happened to me with Spyro. I was trying to play Spyro the Dragon the whole way through, all three of them, and then it's just got to be so grindy, and I'm like, man, this game was not, it was more fun back in the day because it's like was the only game around that I had that I wanted to play like a bunch of. Whereas today it's like this, it's kind of simple. It's this nostalgia wore off when I realized how much of a grind it was and how kind of a pain in the ass it was. Crash Bandicoot as well. Like those were fun games back in the day because those were our games. And we couldn't see into the future to see how much more complex and intricate gameplay and graphics would be. If we could see that, we'd say, no, I'm just going to wait. They're just going to remake this game and make it look better anyway and save my money and not spend the $60 for a 17th time on Skyrim. But this has been my rant on remasters and ports. It's just been kind of scattered around because there's tons of stuff that's coming out that's cool, but I keep looking at my backlog and seeing all the games that are on there that say Xbox 360 on the side or our PS3 games that I'm like, yeah, okay, I want to play that again. I'm just at a weird time and preparing for all the new stuff that comes out, that it's interesting to see what all has been released in terms of games that were made how many years ago and how many games are continuing to be remade and remastered just to keep them in the public eye and keep them being played and prevent them from being forgotten about and lost to, the sands of time. So it's interesting, and I want to know what the future holds for remasters and ports, like with the PS5 and the Xbox 720 or whatever the hell it is. I don't know if it's got some weird name. Amara would correct me, but I don't know what it is. I just hope it doesn't suck and they get rid of the brick. That would be cool. But this has been the Board Certified Gaming Podcast. If you guys like this, make sure to like the video on YouTube, comment, give us a review, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'll see you next week, next Wednesday when these come out. Make sure to follow the Twitter, Instagram, check out the Twitch, all that fun stuff. Amara will be back next week. We'll talk about something else. It'll probably be related to gaming. I think you can put money on that. But yeah, I'm Andy. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.